wild. It's effectively wild. With Lindbergh and Meg Rowley.
Hello and welcome to episode 2412 of Effectively Wild, a FanGraphs baseball podcast brought to you by our Patreon supporters. I'm Meg Rowley of FanGraphs, and I'm joined by Ben Lindbergh of The Ringer. Ben, how are you?
I am relieved that we have some stuff to talk about because we ended our last episode with me prodding you to tell teams to do something.
Right.
Because we had to record the day after our preceding episode. Sometimes if enough news is not accrued in the interim, can be a scramble. We have to dig deep. But we don't have to dig as deep as I feared because some news has happened as we record here on Tuesday afternoon. And of course, I refer to one of the most powerful figures in baseball, entertaining the assembled writers with his latest puns. Yes, Scott Boras set up his little backdrop, and he delighted everyone with his latest lines. And I assume that you were not able to attend the Boras Scrum. Yeah, it was a busy time. Yeah. Because some other agencies stole Boras's thunder a bit by leaking news or news having happened while Boras was up there. The spotlight is on him. And then the news comes out that the Phillies have re-signed Kyle Schwarber.
Yes.
The Dodgers have signed in with Díaz. Mm-hmm. And suddenly probably people had to flock elsewhere to file stories while Scott was still standing there doing his spiel. But we will give him his due here, as we always must.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had to scramble, I assume, to assign some posts or get some people who pre-wrote posts to spruce them up with the specifics. So we have a couple of signings to talk about after we do our pun review.
Yeah, this was the rare pre-write double up where JJFE had both Díaz and Schwarber in his little group of assigned guys. And so Michael Bauman took the Díaz signing so that we could get going, keep the trains moving, as it were. But yeah, I was, as a result of that, not able to attend Boras's scrum. Because look, the puns will pun, but the news is going to news. And as much as it might annoy Scott, the one is a much bigger priority than the other. So
yeah, the puns are either evergreen or never green, depending on your perspective. So that won't change.
Yes, agreed.
But we're pot committed at this point. We're pun committed. We must report. We're duty bound to report the latest Boras puns. And maybe I'll be breaking Boras news to you here. If you weren't there and you haven't caught up, then maybe you haven't heard these.
Not even one single pun. I have not. I have not heard even one.
Okay. Well, we'll get your real-time reactions to hearing these things for the first time. And I'll read them to you, but where available, when we have clips from someone who captured them, and thanks to those who do, for whatever reason, the SNY Twitter account posted a lot of the clips, the actual delivery. Really does add something to see and especially hear Boras deliver these lines. So where we can, we'll have producer Shane drop in the original line readings by Scott Boras here, which are not the smoothest, I will say. Sometimes he has to fumble for them a bit, which is understandable because he's got so many and he has memorized them, I guess, and yet he has to wait for someone to ask him about these clients. His worst nightmare is probably he prepares a line and nobody asks him about that particular free agent, and he just has to leave that line on the cutting room floor. So you can see how happy he is to be able to deploy these things, but he also has to summon them from his memory, and sometimes you can hear him kind of reaching for the line a little bit, and sometimes he flubs the delivery, but then he just powers through and gets to it eventually anyway, and he has this mischievous little grin flitting across his face as he does it. It's just, you got to see it or hear it, at least. It helps. But here's what we got from Scott. So remember last time we said, well, he's probably not going to do this with Tatsuya Imai, even though there's obviously a lot of material there, maybe cultural sensitivities, and he'll refrain. And then I realized that no, he hadn't refrained. Actually, he had gone for one, but it was the lowest hanging fruit.
Yes.
It was like, oh my instead,
Right.
Imai, oh my. Here's his latest on Tatsuya Imai.
Like Imai, you have a 27-year-old pitcher who throws 98, 99. Teams look at that and say, that, believe me, in my wildest dreams, I never expected someone to be available like that.
Look, I'm going to allow it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not enthused about these, and I'm holding fast in my belief that he should just take it a year or two off. And look, next year there probably won't be any deals done because of a lockout, and so perhaps he feels the need to get them all out now. Because he might not be able to pun in the same way. Lockouts are serious business. You can't be out here making jokes. But I'll allow it. I think that it's of the potential Imai puns, it's an acceptable one. It's like we talked about. You're in potentially dangerous territory when you're punning on names like that. But I think this one's okay. But again, not great. I didn't chuckle.
Maybe he sought permission from Imai before he deployed these puns, perhaps. But it's funny. This is a little pulling back the curtain. Shane will have edited this out. But the first time I read this to you, hotel Wi-Fi disconnected you just as I was starting to read the pun. And then all I heard when I finished was protracted dead silence. And I thought that was your natural reaction to hearing that pun, that you were just totally no-selling it. And then I looked and I thought, oh, Meg is gone. But that wouldn't have been a terrible reaction either.
That's great. You're like, wow, she's really committed to the bit here.
Okay. This was on Alex Bregman, who seems to bring out the best in Boras.
You're talking one of the few regular everyday players that has 8 consecutive postseason appearances. So, in October, it's Alex in Wonderland, and it's a regularly scheduled event, no doubt.
Okay, so you're right that I think from a pure joke construction perspective, he seems to really be locked in on Bregman, right? He's in a zone when he has Bregman to work with. And there is a sort of a wisdom to acknowledging that this is another pass through, but also they're hoping that this isn't regularly. Is that what he went with? Regularly?
Yes, he had a hard time getting that out.
Yeah, because it's hard to say.
Regularly scheduled event.
They're hoping that it's not a regularly scheduled event. I did much better on the second pass. I'm so proud of myself because they're hoping that he's going to sign a long-term deal, right?
Well, that's true. I think he's saying that if you sign Alex Bregman, it will be a regularly scheduled event for you to be playing in October.
I see. Okay, so he's not. I see.
But it has been a regularly scheduled event for him to have to say puns about Alex Bregman.
Regularly scheduled event. I think, I think the Bregman pun work is pretty strong.
I think so too.
I wonder, is he getting an assist on those ones,
You can tell when he brought in someone to punch up the puns.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I'll go to my writer's room on this one. Maybe he has a sensitivity reader in the writer's room, and so he's like, these are my jokes are fine.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, I was speaking of regularly scheduled event. It's odd that he has to go back to this well so soon after the GM meetings, because the two big events, and I guess the off season is sort of the season for Scott Boras. This is the main event for him, but he has to empty his pun bag in November at the GM meetings and then turn right around in December at the winter meetings and have a whole fresh set. So I wonder if we could compare, and I guess we kind of have, but I wonder whether he saves the best material for the winter meetings. Ooh. I don't know that I've discerned a real difference in the quality of the puns from one event to the next, but does he come up with this all at once and then he says, okay, here's my GM meetings material, here's my winter meetings material, or does he get through the GM meetings material and then sort of read the room, assess the reaction, and then use that to workshop the winter meetings material? if we ever have him on again, we'll have to dive into that.
We'll just have to make sure no one in his office listened to any of our past episodes about it, because the reviews are getting a little more critical as time goes on.
Yes, although I feel a bit better about the latest crop of puns than I did about this year's GM meetings set. So another thing I've noticed about him, and we heard it in that Bregman one, and I'm about to give another example. He has a little tick when he does this. He'll say the line and then he'll add a no doubt at the end, or without a doubt. It's like he can't just let it land. I think it speaks to a certain lack of self-confidence in the material.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because you should just end with it's a regularly scheduled event, but he appends this no doubt to the end of it. It's almost like to signal that the pun is over, or to signal that it was one. Yeah. Because I don't know, it's just a thing that he does, and I think the delivery would be improved if he could excise that and just let the pun stand on its own. And here's another example of that.
In the postseason, when you add a Suarez, I think everyone knows you're armed and rangerous, without a doubt.
Okay. I think if he didn't have the without a doubt, it would work.
Yeah.
But it rangerous.
Armed and rangerous.
I don't know what that sounds like to me, but it sounds problematic somehow. I can't quite put my finger on it, and I don't think I'm inclined to give a ton of explanation, but something about that doesn't sit right as I sit here with it longer,
Yeah.
I just next year, well, again, we probably won't have winter meetings next year because of a lockout, but the next time he does a stand up like this, I need to make sure I can go, and I don't think I'm going to even really look at him. I want to stand like off to the side a bit and watch these wash over our colleagues in the assembled media. Yeah. Because I'm curious if anyone like really cracks a genuine smile, or if they're just like, oh, Scott, man, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of snickering or obligatory chuckling. I don't know. It seems like media members insist that they're over it, and some of them are just too cool for school, too cool for Scott, and they're kind of jaded, cynical about this whole exercise. Yeah. But then there is some laughter, and I don't know whether it's just that it would be awkward not to laugh, and they're kind of humoring him, or he's a source for them. They're buttering him up, right? So, yeah, I'd like to see how this would play to a different audience, because the audience of people who dutifully gather round to transcribe these things and capture them, they do have sort of a vested interest in staying on Scott's good side. So I don't know how genuine it is. Okay, here's another one on Pete Alonso.
Pete lives in Tampa. It's rather warm there. So the polar vortex of last year is kind of thawed. So, the prior market, this market is, that prior bear market is exhausted. So now we kind of have the running of the bulls in Tamplusa.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I think,
first
I'm pretty sure he's done bear market before.
He's absolutely done bear market before, but mostly, Scott, you're doing too much, buddy.
He's stacking them on top of
You're stacking too many things. Tamplusa?
Yeah, was this a flub by him? Because it's Pamplona is where they do the running of the bulls. So should it have been Tamplona? Right. I assume, unless I'm missing some other extra joke here, but
no, Ben, no, I'm short circuiting. I'm so bad at this one. Read the first part again.
Okay. You have no idea how many tabs I have open here. Okay. Pete lives in Tampa. It's rather warm there. The polar vortex of last year has kind of thawed. This is referring to Alonso's bear market last year. That prior bear market is exhausted. Now we have the running of the bulls in Tamplusa.
Okay, so Tamplusa makes no sense. He had to have just he had to have just goofed that.
Yes.
Because it doesn't make Tamplusa isn't
No.
and there is a Tamplusa's wrong. That's wrong. He just got it wrong. I wonder if he made a face after he got it wrong that was like, I got that wrong. He got that wrong. So that's one thing. But the polar vortex has thawed, but a bear would thrive in a polar vortex because it's a polar bear. So you want it to be cold. They like the cold.
You're right.
So you don't want to thaw. And I understand that he's making a bear market joke, but also like, but he's the bear. Mm-hmm. But he's the bear. So you don't want them. I'm so mad. I don't like that one at all.
Okay.
I do not support that one. I think he tried to do too much, and then he biffed it at the end.
Yes.
And that's. I'm sure there was someone in the scrum who was like, "Is that?" But that's not where they run the bulls.
I thought, is he working on some other layer? Is this like another pun that I'm not even getting? But I don't think so. He was also, he was asked about the fit for Pete Alonso in Fenway in the Green Monster. And he said, the numbers illustrate that Pete hits really well there, sees the ball well. Big man in small quarters. It's nice to be the redwood tree in the forest, I guess. I can't read about redwood trees anymore without thinking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. So that's ruined for me forever.
I do love that you're like, look at this beautiful manifestation of nature. It makes me think of Travis Kelce's dick. You know, that's a weird life to be living over there.
Didn't ask.
It's not your fault. You deserve financial compensation from Taylor Swift, I think. So, okay. So wait. So, but he's not a. But why would he be a redwood? Why is he? He's not a. He's a polar bear.
Right.
So it's like
we're
he's
mixing
not
metaphors here. He's the redwood tree in the forest. I guess that means he's
He's
big.
like a really big tree in a forest. But some forests are huge.
Sure.
You know, some forests are very
a whole forest
expansive.
of redwood trees. Yeah, and he's not that big. I mean, he's big, but as big leaguers go, big leaguers are big.
I think of this is still Alonso, right?
Yes,
I didn't miss
we're still
this.
on Alonso here.
Switching to a different player, he's like I mean, he's a big. I would describe him as stocky more than I would describe him as big.
6'3", 245. It's he's playing in the same city as Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. It's tough competition.
Definitely warping my perspective on it. There are some of the front office folks walking around the lobby, but they are very tall, and they all seem to work for the race. It's just like a very tall, raised.
Was one of them Jeff Sullivan?
Folks. One of them was Jeff Sullivan, but he also had other colleagues in stuff, and they were similarly very tall. Oh, they were all so tall, so tall.
Huh? Must be a market inefficiency of some sort. Just height among front office executives. Probably not. Usually height leads to people being overrated, if anything.
Right,
so,
like Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, Alonso's
This is my canonical example of this.
Yes.
Handsome or just tall? We have to ask these questions.
Alonso in 10 games in Fenway has an 893 OPS, which is fine, but he has a career 857 OPS.
It's not that
nothing spectacular.
Different from his.
Yeah.
I am furious about these. I really am.
Well, let's keep going.
All right.
Okay. This one, I think I have to hand it to him here, maybe.
Okay.
He's talking about Tarek Skubal.
Okay.
Skubal is metrically dominant, both in advanced and traditional measures. I mean, he's truly a saber-proof tiger. If you want to look at the tail of the tiger, without Scoobs, they're a mystery machine.
Okay, so here's the thing. One of those would be fine. But he's doing too much. Why are you stacking?
Yeah.
Also,
it's a hat on a hat, as they say.
It's a hat on a hat. He is definitionally a hat on a hat. Here's the other part of it. Okay, so he's metrically dominant. So that's a weird way to phrase that. I understand what he's going for. Yeah. And we do refer to some stats as metrics, but like metrically dominant that's clunky, Scott. I'd ask for a rephrase if you were filing copy with me. Yeah. So there's that piece. And then he's a saber-proof tiger. That part is, I think, that's quite strong because it suggests that, his traditional stats are not undone by less flattering advanced stats. And I think that's quite strong. So, okay, good. You could have a better, a cleaner second pass, but fine. But you can't then do the Scooby-Doo. You can't do Scooby-Doo 2.
Especially because he did Scooby-Doo, I think, at the GM meetings.
Right.
I mean, I like that the Tigers are a mystery machine without Scooble. That's not bad. But
you can't. You have to pick. You have to pick a darling and stick with it because you can't. If you're stacking your darlings, well, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You're supposed to kill them, at least some of them.
Right. You're supposed to kill your darlings, which outside the context of writing would be a terrible thing to say, but in the context of writing is good advice. But this is too. He needs a room, What do you think we could charge Scott Boras to be like his writers?
I think he's just he enjoys this so much that I'm not sure he would want that. But I've made that case before. I've written that the Star Wars fellows, Filoni and Favreau, they've done some good work, but they do it solo or together and they don't have a writer's room, and they could clearly benefit from one. And generally I am in favor of just having a room. And Scott, it's just unclear that he's running this by enough people.
Do you think that any of them are AI?
Like the people he's consulting or that he's getting this from AI?
Yeah, do you think that any of his are him going, ChatGPT?
I'm going to say no because he was doing this well before
That's true.
the Gen AI era, and I don't know that the quality has changed appreciably for better or worse. Yeah. Here's another no-doubter, and by that I mean one where he said no doubt at the end. There might be plenty of doubt about the quality of the puns, but here it goes on Zach Gallen.
I think for Zach, it's high quality, never crude, always refined, and when you pull up to the pitching pump, a gallon is always premium. So he's exactly a rotation fit, no doubt.
I think the structure had an issue here because he started in with the gas analogy before he really explained that. So he started with never crude, always refined, but he didn't say gallon before that. So I wasn't even thinking about that. He's just, for Zach, it's high quality, never crude, always refined. And at first, I'm not sure where he's going with this until he gets to when you pull up to the pitching pump, a gallon is always premium. I feel like he should have led with that and then used the never crude, always refined, or he could have gone with the price of a gallon, something about that these days. I don't know.
It's weird to make it about, like a gallon is a unit of measure. And so it's weird to say a gallon is always premium because, well, it doesn't have to be at all. Like you can go and get regular.
Yes.
And they will sell you a gallon of it, I mean, they prefer you put it in your car first, but they will sell you a gallon of it. And so that one's not working for me. I think you're right that structurally it is a little crude, to use Scott's word, could use some refinement. Yeah. I was able to anticipate who he was talking about. I think that would have been true.
I told you. I primed you at the pump for that one. Yeah. So
yeah, but I think I would have gotten it anyway because it's like, well, who else could it be but Gallon? Who else has a possible?
Yeah. That may have been more of a delivery issue. I guess I get what he was going for, but it didn't come out perfectly.
I wonder, he should have, if you want to be in gallon territory, you should have a pedal to the metal kind of a thing, or I feel like there's unexplored potential there, but that one's pretty poor. I think just in both the writing and the execution, I don't think I don't think he nailed that one, you know?
Okay. I think we're up to the last one now, mercifully, probably for some of our listeners. And if I missed any, apologies to Scott. I will update in the outro. But here's Scott Boras on where talks stand with Cody Bellinger.
Belly is, he's, it's not for me to judge, but, great players see red if they lose that they have a big bat yanked out of their lineup. I haven't met a team that dodges a 5-tool player.
Is he just naming teams at this point?
The center field need is a giant step towards the playoffs. North and South. Outfielders that fly with power. They're rare birds. In the off season, there's a lot of startup to organizations, and for that reason, there's a lot of angel investors that are looking for very versatile outfielders. So other than that, Belly doesn't have much interest.
So he's speaking in code, a very easy to crack code.
Yeah,
be clear.
I cracked it. I cracked his code.
Implying that there are a lot of teams in on Cody Bellinger here.
There are a couple ways in which this falls apart. Not the least of which is, so he named a bird. A bird. He named a bird. So he must be. This feels like you're being very rude to Victor Scott. Right? Because it can't be the Blue Jays. They have Dalton Varsho.
I think he means the Orioles because...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the Cardinals...
An Oriole is,
birds.
in fact, a bird. You're right.
But
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Bird.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the episode should just me going, bird.
People would love that.
It got colder in the workroom today. I don't understand what happened. It got colder all throughout this hotel. I don't understand. Isn't this hotel normally frequented by children going to Disney World? I mean, I guess they're not here most of the time, if that's the core audience. Like, they're in the park. But it's so cold today, Ben. I was just, from the minute I went downstairs to go to the BBWA meeting, such a chill BBWA meeting we had, by the way. No controversy at all, which has not been true for the last couple ones. People have been fighting in the aisles, but not today. Everyone was like, great, let's get out of here. But anyway, I don't like this one at all. I think it is too much work. It also isn't highlighting one of the best parts of Cody Bellinger's profile, which, yes, is that he can play like a good center field, but also it's sort of not nodding at his positional versatility in a way that seems very strange to me. Yanked. I don't think we should talk about yanking. That feels bad. I don't know. I
am kind of impressed that he managed to get that all out. I don't have video of that one, I don't think. I haven't seen, so I don't know if that all came out cleanly. It could be that the transcript is doing him some favors, but he did work a lot of teams into that. He
did. Okay, so take us through the teams again. Take us through the teams again.
So we have the Yankees, for sure. The big bat yanked out of their lineup, and also it's not for me to judge. And then I guess the Reds, great players see red. I guess the Reds. I haven't met a team that dodges a 5-tool player, so that's the Dodgers. And then we have the Phillies and their center field need that needs to be filled. And then the Giants. The Giants step toward the playoffs. And then the Birds, the rare birds. And then the Angel investors. So we've got the Angels in the mix here too. So I guess that's all of them. That's a lot of teams.
That is a lot of teams. And, I think most of them are right in terms of their needs. I am curious if any... the internet sucks so bad now. I just want you to know that the internet is like so useless so much of the time. I was curious if any of the teams that he was naming had as their projected opening day starting center fielder at this moment another client of his, which I would imagine Scott has the foresight to not do. But I was curious who Colton Cowser's agent is, because I don't know that one off the top. And the AI overview on Google is Colton Cowser's agent is not publicly specified, but he is likely represented by a sports agency that handles baseball players.
Oh, that's helpful. Yeah. Okay. That checks out. Yeah.
What a dumb timeline we're living in, Ben. Just the goofiest, dumbest little timeline. But anyway, I appreciate the effort that is being expended here. And I think that I mostly agree with his assessment in terms of the teams that he's listing here needing in some cases quite desperately a center fielder. But I think we're in dicey territory because we liked the Bregman ones. We thought those were good. We liked half of the Skubal ones, or at least we liked each half of the Skubal one independently, but gave him a big downgrade for once again wearing a hat on a hat. And we liked this one on Bellinger's behalf, but the Alonso stuff is a catastrophe, and I think it means he fails the exercise. Like I think the exercise receives a failing grade because of how bad that answer was.
You know, I found a video of him delivering that line, that very long Bellinger
Was it better?
bit. Yeah, so people will have heard this already and maybe been confused by my saying that I couldn't find video. I have found it, as you now know. And I think we've got to include the Mets in the list of teams, because when he said I haven't met a team.
The Mets,
he stressed that. So we can lump them into. So every team is in on Bellinger, seemingly. So that's good to know, I guess.
I just think it's December. We're here in, well, I almost admit not the happiest place on earth because that distinction belongs to Disneyland. But we are, within line of sight of the mouse at a lot of junctures. And again, I can see the Tower of Terror. I'm surprised I can't see more. I was thinking this the other day. I'm like, why can't I see? Is that really the tallest structure? Anyway, but so, we're all having fun here. Schwarber's signing and Díaz is signing and business is getting done, albeit at a slow clip. But like a thing that has been a topic of conversation in every conversation I have had here is that we are so unlikely to have winter meetings again next year because if there's a lockout, there's no purpose to having a major league phase to the winter meetings. They still do, I think, the trade show and what have you, but they won't do it. And apparently, Ben, next year was supposed to be a San Diego year.
What a loss.
I am furious.
Hopefully they won't skip it in the rotation. They'll just do San Diego the following year.
How dare they put San Diego on the chopping block like that? How dare they? Furious. So anyway, but it's like it is casting something of a pall over the proceedings, right? There's just this understanding, even as guys are signing multi-year contracts, even as, the Dodgers are we'll get into the Díaz and Schwarber of it all here shortly, but it's like there is a keen awareness of the precarity of the sport after this CBA expires. And, maybe they get a deal done. Maybe they are able to avoid a lockout. That seems incredibly unlikely. Maybe they're able to avoid missing games. That seems more likely, although I have heard some very pessimistic guesses from some folks on that score. So it's, there's a seriousness to the future that I think everyone is very cognizant of. And so that is also part of why this is kind of fallen flat for me because, you got to have a sense of humor about things and find fun, even in the face of difficulty. But it just feels like it's sort of missing it feels low feel to me, is what it feels like. It's like, hey,
I
Scott.
see it sort of the other way, that we got to appreciate the puns while we have them, that the puns are precious. We'll be wishing that we had the Boras stand up next year when we have no winter meetings potentially. So
I think I'm going to be home for the whole month of December. Think about how much easier it's going to be scheduled a podcast. We won't have anything. We won't have anything to talk about.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But we won't have any scheduling conflicts. So that's good. That's the primary consideration for people, our recording logistics. Anyway, I'm still optimistic about not missing games.
I hope so.
But not about avoiding a lockout and next year's Scott Boras puns. So did we have to spend quite so much time on this? Perhaps not. But you know what? We might not get another batch of these until who knows when. So we'll savor them and also mock them while we can. Okay, let's talk about those two big signings of non-Boras clients. We don't have to talk about which teams might hypothetically, theoretically be interested in Scott Boras clients when we know that the Phillies, in addition to extending manager Rob Thompson, have essentially extended, re-signed, really, Kyle Schwarber. Big deal, long-term, 5 years and $150 million. And Kyle Schwarber going back to the Phillies, or really just staying put. And you know what? That feels right. I'm glad. He feels like he is a Philly and should continue to be a Philly. It is a lot of money, $30 million for 5 years. For a DH, a very good DH, but still a DH who is turning 33 in March. But they're keeping the band together here. They're just going to make more runs with Schwarbs.
I like it. Oh, I like the first 2 or 3 years of it very much. I have confidence in Schwarber's ability to maintain his tools. But you're right. Like he is DH only at this point. I mean, you can
really at every point,
right? But like
he wasn't DHing for a while. But
he's really DH only. He is real DH only at this point. Birds. But I think that he is, I saw a number of, I just follow so many Phillies fans on social media, I'm realizing. But, I think that in terms of what he brings to the field, he's been a meaningful contributor to them in a way that is funny, because you think of Bryce Harper and all his blood as the sort of spiritual leader of that team, right? This super important signing, them kicking off this long era of contention. But I think that Schwarber has an argument to be just as vital to their success and efforts over the last couple of years as Harper, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So, I think he's a really important part of their team and clubhouse. I think his production would have been difficult for them to replace in quite the same way. And I also think that he seems like an important, and this is what I saw a number of Phillies fans remarking on. And, I think this is the sort of thing that fans tend to have a better bit of insight into than I do as like a national observer, like an important sort of culture carrier and stabilizing force in that clubhouse. And so I like it. I think it's more money than I anticipated him getting, although, we've gotten a number of we trieds in the stretch just after news of his signing broke. I mean, Rosenthal has reported that the Orioles matched the Phillies' offer to Schwarber. The Reds were also at 5 years. Some of the quotes about the Reds in this piece are like, why are you letting people know about this? But they're like, it'll drive ticket sales. I'm like, you guys are so fucking tacky sometimes. Anyway, I like it. I think that I underestimated Schwarber's market. I had a brutal day in my over-under draft, Ben. My God, just getting whacked from both ends here. But
yeah, let's see. So I had the under on Schwarber at 135.
And the over on
Diaz at 82. Yeah. Yeah, this might be the year. We said it when we did the draft that we felt like MLB Trade Rumors was pretty spot on and that we weren't super confident in our picks. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But we might not even end up ahead this time. Not by much, at least.
I think that I really maybe misjudged his market. I think the back couple years of this could look kind of gross. I think that potential exists. But I also think that the Phillies have an appropriate sense of urgency about the state of their own roster. And they are not content to just be we've been to the World Series, we've been, a perennial postseason contender. They want a ring, and they have a bunch of guys who are aging. And I think that spending up to try to lengthen that window as much as possible is worthwhile. And then, if the back 2 years of his deal, he's not a good player, well, at that point, you're probably looking at a mini rebuild for them anyway. So you have to spend the money, but they seem like they're happy to spend money. There are other needs on this roster. And, I guess that Boras has reminded us of one of them. But I do think that, this was a meaningful bit of business for them to get done. I think that, some of their other options and some of their other needs, they're going to be able to kind of maybe sort out. So I don't know, they got to do something about that outfield. They don't have a starting catcher on their roster right now. The state of their rotation is dicier than it was a couple of months ago. Ranger Suarez is a free agent and Wheeler is going to be out. And then who knows, what he'll be like upon his return. And Nola's season was a freaking disaster. So it's not like they don't have other stuff that they need to get done. But I do think this is one of the things that they needed to get done. So they went and did it. And that's great.
Yeah, I feel like Schwarber's a bit overrated, which I don't want to come off as a Schwarber hater. I really like Kyle Schwarber. Yeah. I enjoy him. But it's almost like somehow he's exempt from the change in the way that teams evaluate players or media members evaluate players, where he is just sort of a old school slugger and he hits lots of dingers. And not that he's one-dimensional at the plate. He's patient. He draws a lot of walks. But he's still just a DH, a really good DH. Yeah. And he's coming off a career year. Yeah. Great timing on his part. Yep. But it's still like a 5-WAR season. That's kind of his peak. And unless you think that that's not accurate, that's there positional adjustments or something that are doing him dirty, he was number 2 in NL MVP voting this year. And he was 14th in NL FanGraphs WAR. Right. So there seems to be something about Kyle Schwarber, and maybe it's just that he's had all these big moments. Right. Or maybe it is just, he's well known. He's been clutch at times. He has that clubhouse leadership halo effect. I don't know what it is, but it's just sort of like the way we evaluate players these days has kind of hurt the perception of players like Schwarber, but except not for Schwarber himself. Yep. Yeah, he's somehow immune to that. Yeah, and look, I think that it's funny because we as an industry, and I think this is true of fans too, right? Especially in the last couple of years, we have been spoiled by the power available in baseball. There are all of these guys who are hitting home runs, they're hitting a lot of home runs, but you can see guys hit a home run. Schwarber is in that tier of dude where it's like he hits a home run and you're like, holy shit. That is a big home run that you just hit, sir. And big both in terms of the frequency with which they have been clutch, both in the regular season and the postseason, and also impactful, right? He is a feel it in your chest kind of power hitter that moves people. It's an incredible story because there were points after that, that Cubs tenure where he looked cooked. He looked like he was done. Or maybe not done, but diminished considerably. So, I'm sure, exceeded his own wildest expectations in terms of being able to realize this deal. Yeah. And he doesn't just hit long homers. He hits lots of them. Almost no one hits more homers than he does. Yeah, he just hit 56. That's a huge number even now. And over the past 5 years, only Judge and Ohtani have out-homered him. Over the past 4 4 years. He's tied with Ohtani behind Judge. So he's an incredibly prolific home run hitter. But yeah, how will that age? I don't know. So I like it for now, and I like it for the Phillies, and they don't seem like the kind of team that will say, oh, we can't do anything else because we have Kyle Schwarber. They're trying to trade Nick Castellanos and his $20 million salary, but they're not getting much out of Nick Castellanos. I don't know whether they'll be getting much out of Kyle Schwarber by the end of this deal, but that's how free agent contracts tend to go. You just hope you get that front-loaded production, and if you can keep cranking those dingers for the next couple seasons while the Phillies are in the midst of this window, and they're old, and they're only going to get older. But yeah, if they can just run it back for another couple of years, then maybe that will be worth whatever happens after that.
Yeah, I think that like he strikes me. I think you're right that like there is a bit of a gap between the way that his profile is typically talked about and the way that Kyle Schwarber, as an example of that profile, is talked about. But he strikes me as a guy who's like really well suited for where the Phillies are now and where they might go, in that, like, you know, provided he remains healthy, but like they will get all of this production while they are still in it and really trying to win a World Series. And maybe the Phillies will just position themselves as like a perpetual motion machine where they'll kind of Dodgers and Mets it a little bit, where it's like, we're going to just spend a lot. We're just always going to be a team that spends a lot. And like, we're going to buy our way through what would otherwise be fallow periods on the roster. But assuming they don't do quite that, you know, it's like you get probably 2 or 3 really good years from Schwarber. And then, you know, in the back two of that deal where you're maybe taking a step back, or, you know, trying to dip under competitive balance tax stuff while you're hopefully bringing up prospects or young players or whatever. Well, then you got a guy everyone likes as a clubhouse guy to kind of help ease those dudes in and sort of bridge a gap and what have you. So I think it's an overpay in terms of his likely production. Like, I don't think that this deal will probably calc out in a great way from a dollars per WAR perspective. But I also think that, like, he does have attributes that are not captured in stats like WAR. He's a great hitter. It doesn't seem like he's about to fall off a cliff. He's like, we talk about a big dude, like he's taking good care of himself, you know, like I like Schwarber, and I think it's a great fit. I think he has meant a lot to that franchise. And I do think that they are paying up a little bit relative to what was likely strictly necessary. Cause, you know, I don't know if he had an interest in, as an aside, like what the Orioles go sign a starting pitcher. What on earth? Anyway.
A frequent refrain on this podcast.
Louise. I mean, I know you got to keep multiple balls in the air at once this time of year, you know, and like going after Schwarber does not preclude them. But also, my God, Mike.
Reportedly, they're moving on to the polar bear and the vortex and all the rest of it. Anyway, Schwarber was, according to FanGraphs, were the 4th most valuable Philly last year, let alone in the National League.
Were the 3 ahead of him all pitchers?
2 were. Trey Turner was ahead of him.
Turner, okay. Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, keep him away from the ozone therapy, and I say therapy in air quotes.
Well, I mean, like, talk about, I don't know Schwarber's deal, but having a potential countervailing force doesn't strike me as the worst idea either, so.
Yeah, we've gotten some responses to the ozone therapy Bryce Harper discussion. Yeah. None of them has stood up for ozone therapy. They've all been like,
to be clear.
Yeah,
they've all been like,
people who know much more about medicine than we do are like, this is not a good idea. That's the opposite of a therapy. It is not good, actually, to do that to your blood.
It's like slowly poisoning himself.
Seemingly. Jeez. Okay.
Bryce.
So yes, We Tried tracker for Davey Andrews is lighting up on this one because
Davey
it's not just the Orioles and the Reds, but also the Pirates. And the reported, evidently they did actually make an offer on this one. So it's not quite like Naylor where they were primed to make an offer. Reportedly, they actually did here. And they went to 4 years and 120. So same AAV, but 1 less year, which is, not a bad offer. I mean, it was topped, but that's not a unreasonable amount of money to offer Kyle Schwarber, I suppose. It's probably not going to get it done. It didn't get it done, and it isn't going to get it done if you're the Pirates, and you probably have to pay a premium, which you're extremely unwilling to do. But what free agent is, if all else is equal, who's going to choose the Pirates at this point? I don't really see why you would. So you might have to kick in a little extra to get someone to come play for you. And will they be willing to do that? Who knows? They are certainly willing to make some headlines about how much they have to spend and how willing they are. And for anyone who is wondering why Bob Nutting is maybe nutting a little less and turning over a new leaf here, I don't think it's just because he has resolved to be a better owner and he's had some sort of end of the Christmas Carol Scrooge-esque epiphany for the Christmas season. I think that there's a motivation for him to do this. One is just to avoid another grievance from the Players Association, not spending enough, but even that hasn't motivated him in the past. But Evan Drellick and Ken Rosenthal wrote about this at the end of last month in a piece for The Athletic headlined, "The Pirates and Marlins have a sudden willingness to spend. Here's what could be behind it." And it acknowledges that they have every reason to spend, just competitively speaking.
Right, especially the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, they're 29th and 30th in committed payroll for 2026, and they could both be contenders if they actually decided to invest in their roster. The Pirates, they've got good pitching. They just had no offense. If they could somehow make up for that shortfall, they wouldn't be an unreasonable dark horse kind of pick, potentially. But it seems like there are ulterior motives here. So here's what they say. "In the view of some player agents, the surprising entrances of the Pirates and Marlins into the marketplace are curious, and with the sports collective bargaining agreement set to expire after next season, no coincidence. Quote, there is a possibility of a fight among clubs over revenue sharing, with the smaller markets seeing a greater contribution," agent Seth Levinson said. "The payers, large market clubs, will argue that insufficient revenue-sharing funds are being spent on player acquisition. Hence, it wouldn't be a surprise if the smaller markets compete for talent in the free agent market to convince the payers that they are committed to putting a better product on the field." So instead of spending just to appease the Players Association, maybe they're spending to appease fellow teams, the franchises that are basically bankrolling Bob Nutting not to spend any more on player payroll than he's already receiving in revenue sharing. And the Pirates and the Marlins say, no, it's all about opportunity and wanting to be good and everything. But that casts it in a somewhat different light. And, you know, we'll take it, I guess. Like any spending, if you're a Pirates or Marlins fan, you might not even care exactly why it's happening. But it does seem that they're thinking long term about the CBA and the negotiations and revenue and revenue sharing and all the rest. So that could be behind this.
Yep, that seems about right to me. Seems about right to me.
Yes. Okay. Well, another team that typically is a payer in revenue sharing, to say the least, the Los Angeles Dodgers. They made a move.
I was so excited when this happened, but I was like, oh, people are going to get all worked up. I can't wait for them to get all worked up.
Oh, you love the drama, the Dodgers drama. You live for it.
I love Dodgers drama. I've become something of a troll about it. And
you're a provocateur.
I think I am a little bit of a Dodgers provocateur, not of the Dodgers, but of the Dodger haters. And it's shocking because I don't think I care that much, but I care enough to do it. So what do you make of that?
Well, amusingly, I saw some quotes that Andrew Friedman gave to reporter Bill Plunkett the other day. This was 2 days ago, I think, in the Orange County Register. Quote, "I think we feel really good about the team we have as we sit here today. So it's not as much heavy lifting required," Friedman said. "That being said, we're going to stay open-minded to opportunities that present themselves." And I guess one presented itself, and it was signing Edwin Díaz. So that quote, I would imagine, will be more ammunition for Dodgers haters. It's not as much heavy lifting required. And then they sign a free agent who's probably the best reliever, best closer on the market. And what is that, like double the biggest free agent contract the Pirates have ever handed out? I mean, so it's all relative. This actually isn't that heavy lifting for the Dodgers by recent Dodgers standards. This is a drop in the bucket. But yeah, Dodgers, Edwin Díaz, I guess it makes sense because they are indeed the Dodgers, and they did have a really lousy bullpen last year. And so they're throwing more money at the problem.
It's such a Dodgers signing. I'll say, 3 years and $69 million for the top bullpen arm on the market isn't like cuckoo bananas or anything like that.
No.
And, there are nits that one can pick with Edwin Díaz, right? We could talk about his age. We could talk about the slight decline in velocity that he's had over the last couple of years. We could talk about how his performance has been a bit mercurial.
Yeah. Volatile. He's
volatile.
Yeah. For someone who's been as good as he's been generally, he doesn't inspire the most confidence at all times.
Right. And so I think that there are nits to pick. But I also think that like the amount of money that is being spent here is like pretty reasonable, all things considered. Certainly goofed me in the free agent over-under draft. So, how about that? But also, it's a very Dodgers signing insofar as, like, they do have some needs on their roster, but they don't have a lot of needs, and they don't have a lot of places to put needs, right? Like, their rotation is pretty well set. And, their position player group is pretty well locked in, and they could make some upgrades if they wanted to.
Yeah, they could do a little light lifting with Kyle Tucker, potentially.
They could do a little light lifting
Can you imagine
with
if they signed Kyle Tucker after the not as much heavy lifting required this offseason? I mean,
him saying that is the most confident I've been that they won't sign Tucker, but also it could be a complete misdirect, so who knows? But,
yeah, I mean, they did spend more than $1 billion, or committed more than $1 billion in total spending in the winter of 23 to 24.
Yeah.
Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Teoscar. And then last year was Snell, Sasaki, Conforto, Scott, Yates, kept Hernandez and Treinen around. So, yeah, comparatively speaking. Yeah.
But also, they managed to win a World Series with a bullpen that was frankly terrifying. They're just pot committed to big payroll, man. So it's like, if you're gonna spend another $23 million a year, go get the best bullpen arm. And like maybe Tanner Scott will be better next year. It wouldn't take much for him to be better next year. But like there's a reason that Yamamoto was throwing on no days of rest in the final game of that World Series. It was because Dave Roberts couldn't trust anyone else in his bullpen and had already sent out the few arms he did trust. So I think that there was a real need, and it is a need that a team like the Dodgers can afford to have, where if you're not an incredible team, if you're not a team that's having to consider not only what does the composition of this roster look like during the regular season, but how does it lend itself to the roster composition we need come the postseason, you're not spending money on an Edwin Díaz, right? The Pirates have no use for Edwin Díaz. Edwin Díaz is useless to the Pittsburgh Pirates, which isn't to say that he couldn't save games for them, but what games is he saving, right? So I think that they are the kind of team where they don't actually have a very long shopping list this offseason, and they can spend up for a guy even if he's only a one-inning guy. And Edwin Díaz works best when he is only going an inning at a time. And, we have seen what heavy usage can do to him in the playoffs, which isn't great and might concern them a little bit. But if he's really only going for one inning, well, you just have to make sure Dave Roberts doesn't do anything wackadoo, which, he's been known to do from time to time. But they're, as Bauman noted, in Game 7, they threw every guy in their playoff rotation, and 5 of the 6 dudes had mostly been starters, depending on how you want to describe Emmett Sheehan. So, he didn't trust any of the guys, or they were exhausted. But it was you can't go in with a load-bearing, version of Blake Treinen. No. Why are you making part of the power? And then I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you talk. But part of the power of the Dodgers is the ability they have to throw money at problems that are otherwise annoying. Why not make your life easier? If all it costs you to feel more confident going into October is $23 million a year, and you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, that is tidy, easy business. So just go do it.
Yep.
And that's what they did.
And they do tend to shop at the top of the market, which they can do more easily than any other team. But other teams that could probably do better, they will sometimes mess around with the middle tier where you can kind of get in trouble sometimes, not just the low price bargains, but if you have a need, the Dodgers will just go get the best guy when they do spend on a free agent or trade for one. Sometimes it's elite talent they tend to sign. And Michael Conforto. that backfired.
And Michael Conforto.
But generally, yeah, there are some exceptions to this rule. But
it's so funny that they signed Michael Conforto. He was pretty bad. He was pretty bad.
Yeah. Apologies to the Pirates, by the way. I said that this Díaz deal was double the record free agent signing for the Pirates. Not quite. Their record is still Francisco Liriano's 3-year, $39 million deal, which was 11 years ago. That was December 2014. They have not exceeded that record. They've signed bigger extensions since then, but that's the record for a free agent. And by the way, Scott Boras weighed in on the Pirates and their seeming willingness to spend. He didn't actually have any puns for this one.
Oh, okay.
You can tell when someone asks him about something else that he was not prepared to talk about, he doesn't just have these things off the cuff, right? Like they're not coming off the dome. Like if he has not prepared them beforehand, then he's not necessarily he's not the best at improv. But he said, Ben Cherington and the Pirates have reached out to us on a number of players. They've made us very aware that they're going to be active in the free agent market and they intend to add free agent talent to the roster. I would say it's the right step. I certainly don't want to limit them for future years, but it's good to see a few of the clubs that we don't normally hear from in free agency be active in it. Amusingly, it then says, Boras prefers not to share publicly which teams are talking to his players. Yeah, not unless he has a prepared spiel about every single team that's talking to Cody Bellinger, seemingly. Okay. Anyway, I guess he prefers not to because he's saving that material for when he's standing in front of the scrum. Okay. And when we talk about free agents and spending these days, we do tend to talk about it more in terms of opportunity cost from a roster standpoint than from a spending standpoint. And we've talked about this shift in the past, but it used to be that we would really just obsess over the terms and the salary. And then it got to a point where we figured, well, teams could probably spend more mostly if they wanted to than they do. And so why stress over the salary? Mostly it's about, is this guy a good fit for the roster? And would there have been a better player that would have served this team's needs better? More so than sort of, I guess, playing into the team narrative of we can't afford this guy because we got that guy. And yes, some teams do have constraints more so than the Dodgers do. But we tend to break this down based on how good is the player and how well does he fit the roster and how much will he improve this team. And I do have some concerns about Díaz. Just, you noted it. I mean, there's some signs of slippage there. But he's still elite. He's still really good. He's 31. He'll turn 32 in March.
Yeah, like right before opening day.
Yeah, on the surface, 1.63 ERA doesn't get much better than that. And you compare that to, say, 2022, when he had a 1.31 ERA, and you might say, oh, he's essentially the same guy, but a little different, you know? He's striking out a mere 13 plus per nine instead of 17 plus per nine. Just ridiculous. Like Díaz's peak stats are about the best thing since, I don't know, peak Kimbrel or something. And he was sitting 99.1 3 years ago. This year, 97.4, which again, I'm poo-pooing sitting 97, but you know, there's a marked decline there. And so even though the ERA is not so different, there's a pretty sizable FIP difference. Big one, actually, like 2022, 0.9 FIP, which is ridiculous. And this year, 2.28. And the XFIP was more than twice as high. So on the surface, sort of the same, but under the hood, not quite. And so, you know, he had a 3 WAR in 2022, and this year, 2 WAR in about the same number of innings, more, actually. So he's not quite as good as he was at his peak, probably. And maybe there will be further decline. And the Dodgers tried to shore up their bullpen last year. Like you just said, you can't have a load-bearing Trinan. Well, that was the plan, to have one, and it wasn't that bad a plan at the time. It was just that he buckled under that load by the time October rolled around. So they thought that they had really shored up their bullpen last year. They went and got Tanner Scott, who was probably the best reliever available, right? And Kirby Yates. And yeah, they had Kopech and they had Trinan, and then guys got hurt or they stunk. And then suddenly they're having to use starters in relief constantly because they just have no reliable relievers. So that could happen again, but I guess what are you going to do if you're the Dodgers other than just trying to hedge against it happening again by going out and signing the best guy you can and hoping for the best?
I mean, yeah.
He's like a one inning at a time guy. And, most kind of designated closers are, but that's what he's going to give you, aside from when he missed the entirety of 2023 after the WBC injury, he's going to give you 60 plus innings, and they're all going to be save situations for the most part. And maybe you can stretch him a little longer in the postseason, but he won't really have been conditioned to do that. So yeah, you kind of, I was going to say you know what you're going to get, but you don't really know with Díaz because he kind of alternates fantastic seasons and kind of like, not sure about this one. So anyway, that's the news thus far. Apparently
there are deferrals in the Díaz deal, roughly $4.5 million annually for the 3 years. So for luxury tax purposes, this is Joel Sherman reporting that it'll sort of calculate out to roughly $21.1 million annually. And you mentioned roster fits, and I would like to return to Schwarber ever so briefly because I do feel like we would be remiss if we did not mention that one potential downside to the Schwarber of it all is that, as we've noted, DH only. And eventually that might also describe the blood man himself.
It's true.
Bryce Harper. And so what are you going to do when you got some competition? The blood man himself. I don't know how I feel about that. I did it just off the dome. I'm not sure it's my best work. I don't know if it's, Scott Boras pun bad. The blood man.
Not great. Yeah.
Anyway, he might need to DH at some point in his career. And so then you have a little bit of working out to do, a little shifting around, and you're limited in your ability to do that because of the presence of Schwarber. But I imagine that they're not that worried about it right now because the thing of it is when both of those guys have to be DHing, maybe your team's not very good.
Right. So. Yeah. While we're still on the subject of the Dodgers, there was some news about the Ippei TV drama that is coming, slowly coming. Remember that?
The scripted drama about Ippei, not drama related to Ippei and television.
Yes, the dramatization of Ippei that has been in the works for about a year and a half. It was May of 2024 that this was first reported that it was being developed by Lionsgate. And now it has finally landed somewhere at Stars, which, maybe means that it's not going to be the most high profile or prestige show. And I say that as someone who has seen every episode of Outlander and the Outlander spinoff. So no shots at Stars.
There's an Outlander spinoff?
Blood of My Blood, baby. Good show.
Blood of My Blood? It would be hilarious if the name of the
Bryce
show...
Harper story.
Right. Also, if the name of the show was actually Blood of My Blood Baby, comma. Like, that'd be fantastic.
No, it wouldn't really be period appropriate. Oh, I shouldn't even... Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
Ben, what a delight!
I've seen my fair share of Stars series, and I guess if this one actually comes to fruition, I'll be seeing this one, if only to just see how it turns out. But I just don't know. Like, this is so it lands at Stars, which I think used to be part of Lionsgate, and there was a split there, and so it comes from Lionsgate to Stars, and there's some pedigree here. It's coming from the screenwriter of Air, Alex Convery, and Justin Lin is involved from The Fast and the Furious and the Helldivers movie, evidently. But Convery is like, he has this niche, I guess, of sports dramas. He's also working on a Tiger Woods thing, the Tiger Slam, about Tiger's peak. 2000, 2001.
Tiger Slam?
Yeah, but
I don't know about that.
so, well, that's what it was called. But that could refer to any number of things, I suppose. But this, I don't, like, if it actually happens and doesn't just get stuck in development hell, by the time it actually comes out, it won't really be that newsy and ripped from the headlines because it hasn't even been written yet. I don't know what's happening for the past year and a half. I guess they've just been trying to figure out who wants it and where it would go. But Justin Lin is attached to direct and will co-write. So it hasn't even been scripted seemingly yet, let alone shot. So this is a ways out. And by the time it finally comes out, if it does, will it seem like old news? It will literally be old news. The log line says the potential series will, quote, tell the inside story of Shohei Ohtani's translator, Ippei Mizuhara, who journeys from unemployed drifter to international icon, only to find himself tangled in a gambling scandal that rocked the sports world. First of all, are we describing Ippei as an international icon? Because
also, was he an unemployed drifter?
I mean, I guess I don't know, drifter seems strong. He was unemployed at one point, but international icon. When I read that the first time, I thought they meant Shohei, but it journeys from unemployed drifter. That's to international icon. That implies that Ippei is the international icon, only to find himself tangled in a gambling scandal. Icon seems strong. I don't know, like, how entertaining it could be to watch someone gamble on their phone or, like, call their bookie. It just doesn't. We talked about how there was kind of an uncut gems quality to reading the indictment.
Yeah.
But, like, would it be and okay, you have the Ohtani orbit, and then you got to get someone to play Ohtani, okay, is it a baseball show? How much baseball is actually in this? And then, like, are we following Ippei as he's driving Ohtani to the ballpark or whatever? Like, just standing there interpreting. It just doesn't seem like it would be. And to just watch him spiral and throw his life and his bank account and Ohtani's bank account away, I don't know. I don't know that I'm really hooked by this premise, even if they play it straight and don't do some sort of conspiracy stuff and, like, invent, I'm imagining legal issues. Probably they don't want to, like, implicate Ohtani in some way here. So they have to sort of stick to the facts or what we know of them, I assume. And how exciting would that be to watch? I have my doubts. So I have my doubts that this will actually be made and come out. But if it does, I don't know. We'll certainly watch it. I'll try it. We'll talk about it just to see what it looks like. But I don't know. Not super optimistic.
Don't commit us to watching the whole thing, though.
Yeah, we'll try it.
Because, like, if my 7-day trial runs out before I've been able to,
you're not already a Stars subscriber, is what you're saying? I'm
not already. What is the spinoff about? Is it their children? Is it time traveling children?
It's about their parents, Claire and Jamie's parents, actually, and there's time travel taking place there as well.
So this is like a genetic trait that they have, the time travel. I thought it was because of the rocks or whatever.
Well, no, you have to have the quality. You go through the stones and you have to have a piece of jewelry that enables you to go through the stones, but you also have to be sort of a person who can journey through them. And evidently, it's kind of a retcon because in the original Outlander series, Claire's parents were killed or they were in a car accident, but then they retconned that into actually they time traveled, and that's why they disappeared.
Oh, and that's why they disappeared.
Probably more information about the Outlander franchise than most people want on a baseball podcast.
I mean, like, I'm fascinated. I mean, I'm not, to be clear. I watched one season of Outlander, and then I was done. I was like, I
was just getting started.
I don't need to continue with this. I'm good.
Fair enough.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about the big LA move, by which I mean Von Grissom getting traded to the Angels. No, we didn't talk about that one, and it wasn't that big.
Just like, that news broke. It came across the transom, and I started laughing very hard. I was like, you guys, you can only be yourselves.
Yes.
We can only ever be ourselves.
The big Von Grissom trade. Your thunder was stolen by the Dodgers. Díaz signing. And there's been a flurry of pitcher signings. The Rays signed Steven Matz. which is appropriate because I can't remember whether he's a starter or a reliever. And with the Rays, it's almost a distinction without a difference. You never need to know. Maybe he'll be a bit of both. He kind of got lost in the Cardinals vortex. Speaking of vortices last year. Can't remember how anyone other than maybe Mason Wynn performed for the Cardinals last year. He did okay for them.
Traded.
And then, yes, he went to the Red Sox and continued to do okay. So
and did much better for the Red Sox even. He pitched very well for Boston.
So, he'll give you his usual decent number of innings in and around injuries, probably, maybe. So, like a lot of other Rays starters and pitchers. There's also been kind of a run on pitchers coming back from Japan or Korea. So the players who were posted, they're still working through the posting process, but we have seen some Western pitchers returning from the East, and the real prize was Cody Ponce. And he went to the Blue Jays, further strengthening that already strong rotation. But we've seen a whole bunch of lower profile signings from NPB and the KBO. So the White Sox signed Anthony Kay, and the Astros signed Ryan Weiss. Yes, and then the Tigers signed Drew Anderson. And these are all guys who are coming back from stints overseas and not as highly prized as Ponce, clearly. But I always like the go over there, make good, learn a new pitch, pitch really well, and then come back and see if you've actually changed or whether your stats just appear better because it's an extreme dead ball era in Japan or the competition is lower in Korea, and we find out whether it's real, whether they've really made strides. And that's always a fun little exercise. So teams kind of going bargain hunting, I guess, with the pitchers who've been away for a while. And now we'll see how they perform.
Do you think that they went bargain hunting because they were nervous to have the Ippei puns associated with their franchise? Do you think it was that?
Probably not. That probably wasn't the main motivation. They probably like what they see in these guys' profiles. But they've been away for a while, so we'll see. Okay.
Been a while.
I didn't exactly say it. It's just, I said been away for a while. It's a stretch.
Been a while.
Putting words in my mouth or taking words out, I guess, in this case. And the last thing that I have to put to you, and I saved the football for the end.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's not even really football. It's football adjacent. But have you followed the Lane Kiffin fake dog saga? Because this is exactly what you were imputing to
PR
Ohtani.
Dog.
Yeah.
He has a PR dog.
PR dog. And
PR dog
appears to be, now there's some discrepancies in the accounts. There's some mystery still surrounding Juice Kiffin, the dog of Lane Kiffin. And for those who have not followed the Lane Kiffin saga, couldn't be me, of course, because I've followed it closely and discussed it on Hang Up and Listen, as Hang Up and listeners know. But Lane Kiffin, in the latest act of his itinerant career, every time you count him out, he somehow resurfaces and makes even more money than before. But he ditched his previous team, Ole Miss, on the precipice of the college football playoffs. They made it into the playoffs. And rather than continue to serve as their head coach, he left for LSU and got a ginormous contract. And it was a whole big controversy and drama. And he was seen as something of a phony because he had talked about how you have to appreciate where you are. And he's not going to be the guy who's just going from place to place anymore. And there was a whole ESPN documentary about him a couple months ago. And he was a changed man. And then he did his Lane Kiffin thing again. And, from all accounts, I guess, good coach. Well, except for accounts long ago when he was dismissed multiple times in disgrace. But after that.
And inspiring letters from past employers warning future employers about the Kiffin of it all.
Questioning his.
We do not have time.
No, we really don't. It's a whole documentary and more. And but yes, his integrity has been questioned by past employers, his honesty, etc. So it came out that Juice Kiffin who it seems like, Kirk Herbstreit from on down, it's just like people in football, they kind of use their dogs for clout. It's not just in football, obviously, but it's quite prominent in football. But, it's like, I love dogs. I have a dog.
Yeah.
But when you make your dog your whole personality or like at least your whole social media personality, I guess it's because people generally like dogs. And so
and don't like Lane Kiffin. So,
right. And so it humanizes you. It caninizes you. Canines, that's not going to work. But to have a cute, cuddly dog. Yeah.
Regularly.
It makes people maybe like you more, or at least that's the idea. So Juice Kiffin has like well-followed social media accounts. But then it came out that he might not actually be Lane Kiffin's dog.
I mean, it seems clear at this point that he's not Lane Kiffin's dog.
So Lane Kiffin has kind of denied that, and you can take that for what it's worth. But
not much.
Yeah, there have been reports. So the dog came from a kennel called Wild Rose Kennels, and then it seemed to be the case that the dog was not going with Lane Kiffin to LSU, or at least not initially, and that there were reports that actually he continued to reside at the kennels, or at least spent a lot of time at that kennels.
Spent a lot of time.
Where he came from, and that maybe Lane Kiffin was just sort of masquerading as Juice's owner, person, whatever, and that maybe he wasn't so much a part of the family as he was represented. And this was seen as another sign of Lane Kiffin's insincerity. So this was the exact conspiracy theory that you subscribed to / perpetrated initially about
perpetrated.
Perpetrated. Was it out there and you glommed onto it, or did it originate with you? I don't even really remember.
I don't know if I originated it. I might have been I was its strongest soldier.
Yeah, I hesitate to say popularized because I'm not sure it ever became popular outside of your mind.
I still get DMs about that dog.
Well,
I do. I still get DMs about that dog.
Help your case, not necessarily in the case of Otani and decoy / Dakopin, but at least it establishes that maybe this is a thing, and that Kiffin was kind of like renting out this dog. It was a marriage of convenience kind of thing, or it was a sham dog relationship. It has since been reported by an NFLPA certified agent named Aaron Reynoldson. I don't know why he's the person who is reporting this or how reliable it is, but this person said, here's the truth on Juice Kiffin. Yes, he's Lane's dog. Lane got him from Wild Rose Kennels. Juice is essentially a high-energy hunting dog that needs constant attention. Lane doesn't have the time, so the breeder became Juice's handler and babysitter. Juice would spend several nights a week at Lane's or at the kennels. No idea if Juice is coming to LSU. I think it has been subsequently suggested that Juice is, in fact, coming to LSU. There was like a popular viral skit about Lane and Juice and about him being a fake dog. And Lane Kiffin, I think, quote tweeted that with like cry laughing emojis or something and acknowledged it. Anyway, I mean, even if that report who's like, yes, he's Lane's dog, however, it's still basically being handled and babysat by the kennel and is like splitting time. It's like a timeshare. I mean, it's
timeshare dog.
It's not your typical dog human relationship here, right? Like, I don't think, I mean, even if there is like, even if the papers are in Lane's name.
Yeah.
And I get that, okay, he's busy. And there was a tweet from the @JuiceKiffin account, which has almost 74,000 followers for some reason, that says, can't wait to get down to Baton Rouge with my dad, brother, and sister. And then has a photo of a tiger. So straight from the source of Juice Kiffin's Twitter account suggests that Juice is actually going to be making the trek to Baton Rouge. But again, you'd almost have to have him make the trek now because the fallout from this perhaps fake dog scenario, you'd have to then adopt the dog if you haven't really already. So this is essentially what you were saying, just with a different sports celebrity and different dog.
Yep. Yep.
So I won't call it vindication, but I will say that at least the concept has kind of been vindicated.
I think it's a PR dog. You know, I know that I hear the denials, and I think he has had very little relation to that dog.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you were to stand Lane Kiffin in a room, certainly with the people from the shelter, and you were to ask them to call the dog versus Lane Kiffin, I think the dog goes to those people and not to Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
And isn't that the ultimate test? And like, people need care for their animals while they're at work. Mm-hmm. And if you're in college football, the head coach of a college football program the size of Ole Miss or LSU, you're gone a lot. I mean, honestly, he shouldn't have a dog. He can't be home enough to be taking care of that dog. You know, I'm just saying, like, what time do you have for this animal? None. I would argue probably very little. Having said that, people who are busy have animals, and they might have people to take care of those animals for them. And that's fine, because what's really important is that the animal is taken care of. But in this instance, I think that he does not have an animal that needs taken care of. He has an image that needs taken care of, and he thinks that the dog facilitates some sort of rehabilitation, although he clearly doesn't care about that much, or he wouldn't have moved to LSU. Anyway, I hate Lane Kiffin, man. Not for me.
You got a lot of company there. Yeah.
Hard pass on Lane. And that doesn't really have anything to do with the PR dog. The PR dog is funny. The PR dog is arguably kind of pathetic. Just be a villain. If you're going to do this shit, you got to, sorry for all the swearing, you just got to accept it. You are the guy who is willing to cut bait to go to LSU.
Yeah. And, even having dogs does not make you a good person. You can't purely rehabilitate your image. Even Cruella de Vil had Dalmatians, so it's not necessarily
did she have?
Well, I guess.
Did she have Dalmatians, or did she?
She was interested in
Dalmatians,
in acquiring Dalmatians, but had designs on them becoming fur coats. So
I don't think she had Dalmatians. She just she was in possession of Dalmatians.
What a weird thing to make fur coats out of, by the way. Why?
I know.
Why Dalmatians? It doesn't even track. If you were going to be a fur wearing person, why dogs?
Get a chow.
Yeah.
I mean, to be clear, don't.
But not
for
even
that purpose, and maybe not at all, because they're very difficult, is my understanding, chows.
According to the Cruella de Vil Wikipedia page, the live-action Disney film reveals that Cruella chooses to skin puppies, a terrible phrase, because when short-haired dogs grow older, their fur becomes coarse and does not sell as well as the fine, soft fur of puppies. Again, there are animals with...
But why?
You don't have to do dogs at all. There historically lots of other animals that have...
Right. Why are you in the dog space?
Well, I guess that is... she is named Cruella, which does seem to be a nominative determinism instance where I don't know whether that turned her cruel or whether she was always wired to be a dog wearer, but appropriate, I suppose. And, the puppy skinning really part and parcel with the character and the name. So, it's a character trait.
Does the Emma Stone version of her, do the puppy thing?
Because,
didn't she get, a live action?
Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to here, that a little lore.
No, but there was also a live action 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close as Cruella.
Yes, and then the actual Cruella movie from 2021, it's the whole Cruella extended universe anyway.
Right.
Okay.
We were all clamoring for it.
Yes. I wonder whether the Ippei show will show Decoy potentially being taken care of by Ippei and his wife, which
maybe
per Portia the Showbay on this podcast, that was the arrangement, at least for a time. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and you mused on the last episode when we were talking about Johanfran Garcia, a.k.a. Password, whether his brother has a nickname. That's Johanfran Garcia, who's a 21-year-old catcher, sometime catcher in the Red Sox system also.
Yeah.
that's just an easier name to say and spell.
Johanfran is easier to say, but it's still, so Johanfran was in Fall League this year, and my proposal for his nickname was that he should be called, so they have password and then username, right? Was the
yes.
But I think they should call him Captcha.
Yeah.
And because he's a catcher, so it's like you're capture the ball, but also his name.
Yeah. The username doesn't work so well, except in concert with password, because there's nothing about Johanfran that's particularly usernamey. It's Jostinsson is the password because there are just so many letters that we're not accustomed to seeing in tandem. And so Johanfran, I don't think he even needs a nickname. I just like saying Johanfran. So I'll take every opportunity to say Johanfran.
Yeah, better name than a baseball player. But I mean, I don't want to bury the young man based on Fall League looks, but I don't think he's assumed to be like a top prospect or anything like that. So.
I hope both of the Garcia brothers pan out and choose to be represented by Scott Boras so that this can all come full circle and we'll see what he can do with Johanfran and Jostinsson.
Don't put that evil in the world. What is wrong with you?
That'll be the final boss for Boras. That'll be the ultimate challenge.
Oh my God.
So much material.
I think he should have to pronounce both of their names 10 times in a row without error before he's allowed to represent them.
Yes, it's like you must be this tall to ride.
To ride this ride, yeah exactly.
It's hard work to assemble the Scott Boras puns, but someone has to do it. Actually, it's not that hard, and no one has to do it. But I was wishing that there could be a central Boras pun repository, a database of Boras puns, so it becomes a Boras scavenger hunt, because they're just scattered across various social media feeds that you have to scour to collect them all. And if you don't do it in the moment, they can be tough to track down again. They're so fleeting, so ephemeral, like a lot of what's precious in this life. So I'm thinking, he has to have used polar bear and polar vortex in connection with Pete Alonso before. And I could try to look it up. But what if I could just type that in? I'm not suggesting that FanGraphs should add that to the player pages. Some stat called Boras Pun Plus. You have to be a pretty good player to merit a Boras pun. In fact, one thing I'd like to look up: who's the worst client, the worst free agent ever to earn the Boras pun treatment? One and only one inquiring mind wants but does not need to know. But if anyone is in the market for a useless research project and wants to scrape social media and websites and newspaper clippings to create a comprehensive record of Boras puns, well, it wouldn't be a total waste of time, because I would welcome it. And what better way to while away the winter? Again, there are much better ways. Someday, hopefully many years from now, when Scott Boras departs this life, perhaps he'll donate his papers to some archive, and when they're clearing out his records, they'll just find a bunch of papers and Post-its with puns scribbled onto them. Maybe there's an intern at Boras Corp whose job it is to record these puns for posterity, though there do seem to be some repeats, so probably not. Whatever additional transactions transpire, we will save for a roundup later this week, once Meg has traveled back to her home base. If after hearing us regale you with Scott Boras puns, Lane Kiffin canine conspiracies, and the canon of Cruella de Vil, you still choose to support this podcast on Patreon, hey, it's the off-season. It's peak off-season content. You can do so by going to patreon.com/effectivelywild and signing up to pledge some monthly or yearly amount to help keep the podcast going, help us stay ad-free, and get yourself access to some perks, as have the following 5 listeners: Caitlin Swiecka, Marco Gasparo, Mike Snyder, Morgan Gray, and Rick Glidden. Thanks to all of you. Patreon perks include access to the Effectively Wild Discord group for patrons only, monthly bonus episodes, playoff live streams, prioritized email answers, potential podcast appearances, discounts on merch, and ad-free FanGraphs memberships, and so much more. Check out all the offerings at patreon.com/effectivelywild. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can message us through the Patreon site. If not, you can contact us via email. Send your questions, comments, intro and outro themes to podcast@fangraphs.com. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Effectively Wild on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, and other podcast platforms. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/effectivelywild. You can find the Effectively Wild subreddit at r/effectivelywild, and you can check the show notes in the podcast post at FanGraphs or the episode description in your podcast app for links to the stories and stats we cited today. One link you'll find there includes the sign-up form for Effectively Wild Secret Santa. This is the last time I'll remind you about the Secret Santa activity, because the deadline is December 10th at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Thanks to Shane McKeon for his editing and production assistance. We'll be back with that 3rd episode before the end of the week. Talk to you then.
Where do you go in a world of bad taste? for the good takes on baseball and life, with a balance of analytics and humor, philosophical musing, effectively wild, effectively wild, effectively wild.